My name is Christopher Buchanan. I founded Terragena in 2016. We were licensed as a winery. We made some wine a little bit before that, but so about 10 years producing wine. My vision has always been one of authenticity and purpose. You know, I've made wines that are premium. My goal is that the wine quality is the number one element that we focus on. Obviously, we need to have good packaging, good branding, good distribution, but for me, quality has always been number one. And so I think that shows through, and it's shown through in some of our recent scores and ratings as well. One of the things that really excited me about wine, or excites me about wine still, is that every year is different. And so every year is a new experiment, but that means that it has to be art, because you can't reproduce last year, this year. You have to do this year. But science informs the steps. It teaches us, patterns and ways that can work. And then the art is the human element. That's where we take, well, this is what we have, and this is what science says. And so now we have to put those together and figure out, what we're going to do. And we've found that curiosity and exploring is really the best way to kind of merge those two, art and science, into one. And so curiosity and just learning is kind of a fundamental element of what our brand's about. So when you speak to maximizing utility, that's sort of a funny concept, but it basically is whatever is the best for you to do, right? Like, so for me, making the best possible wine maximizes my individual utility. And so everything else about this company is in order to make the best possible wine. I have found through experimentation and curiosity and study that doing that is best done with sort of the minimum intervention necessary. That's not to say that we don't make sure the wines are sound and good quality and that we don't follow certain scientific principles, but we allow the art and the nature of the year, the climate of that year, to show through in the final product. I don't want to say I fall into trends. I do watch them, and if they're interesting or important, I think that they're valid. For example, a current trend in the market is that consumers are really looking for wines with purpose or with a message. And, we've been doing that for a decade since I started the company. The purpose of making this really authentic wine that's authentic to the place, to the people that create it. I think that really speaks to sort of, that utility that we talked about maximizing, and also for the consumer, maximizing their utility, and that they get a really cool product that was made with intention and purpose for them. That the biggest part of what we want to inspire and what Terragena is about, is that curiosity, is that wonder, and sort of inspiring awe, or that feeling of magic or beauty, because that's sort of the source of creativity, of sort of human motivation and thought. And so we're really trying to get to that edge of that sort of sublime, or of that wonder, that just the joy of being alive, but experiencing that through curiosity and understanding. All of our wines have stories, and I'll pick one. And this isn't a current release. This is an old story, but I'll tell it because I think it's a pretty good one. So in our first vintage in 2016, we were making Chardonnay. And we had about 2 tons of Chardonnay, which is very small amount, but it was one of our first wines. And as we were driving it back, it was about a 3-hour truck drive from the winery to the vineyard. So you're driving the grapes. And I got off at an interstate exit at about 3 a.m. I was driving the truck, and I got off. And as I got off the exit, the accelerator stopped working. So the truck just wouldn't move. And I had these grapes that were going to go, bad on the back of the truck, and the truck's not moving. And I'm like, oh no. And so I had enough speed. I coasted into a parking lot, and then I was like, well, in an hour, what am I going to do? So I called the winery, and I had some people there sort of waiting on me, and they got up a little bit earlier, and they actually came down, and we got a rental truck and managed to get the grapes transferred onto a new truck, and spent most of the day playing musical trucks with grape bins, which is interesting, without a forklift. So we were kind of doing this all by hand. It was it was an adventure. And then it just so happened that the truck had broken down across the street from a transmission repair shop. And the people at the bank actually helped us push the truck across the street, and they fixed it. And I was able to finish harvest like 2 days later. And we got the rental truck with the grapes up, and we spent that whole night pressing those. And that was our 2016 Abassi Chardonnay that we're now on the 18 release. And that's a really special vineyard. One, because of that story. It was one of our first white wine and one of our earliest wines. And two, because those grapes are really a phenomenal older vines from the 70s that just make a really concentrated, just beautiful Chardonnay. So it was well worth the effort. It's taught me a few things. It's also taught me about priorities. As a small wine brand, you have to choose the important things. And that's, when you're looking at resilience and perseverance, what are those points that make you persevere, right? You have to know that. And so finding that, for me, it was curiosity and knowledge and exploration, and that's the essence that keeps Terragena moving, that inspires our consumers to explore and learn about the world around them, and experience that sense of wonder that comes from a realization or from learning something new. I had to think about this a lot recently, and I came up with Leonardo da Vinci, because he was both a scientist and an artist. He painted the Sistine Chapel, but he's also known for doing some incredible scientific discoveries. And so I would say he's a real role model for me, in that he kind of blended those two things. I mean, obviously the results speak for themselves, so he just did a great job. We're excited because we have 3 new releases coming out for our current club release for the spring. These include 2 Anderson Valley wines, a very small production rosé, and a larger production Pinot Noir, as well as a Vermentino from Mendocino, which is the first time we've done a Vermentino. I'm very excited about. The wine tastes phenomenal. And those are all 3 being released, basically right now. The club has early access, and we'll be getting those shipments in the next week. And then they should be available for general sale in a few weeks after that. And we're also very excited to be doing some new educational experiences with exploring oak treatments in Merlot and Cabernet, so that people can really take a deep dive into the characteristics of wine. And that's sort of another project that's coming up soon. So we have a couple tiers at Terragena. We have a red blend, which is our sort of entry level. And then we have our appellation series, where we explore general regions, wine regions. So you can really get a taste of, what the Sonoma Coast is, or the Anderson Valley is, or Carneros. And then we have our single vineyard wines. If someone were a new drinker and they were just wanting to explore, I would definitely recommend the appellation series. It's accessible, and it lets you take a broad look at the different regions that we produce. Right now we have a Carneros, which is a really, won a red wine of the year last year at one of the trade tastings. And we also have the Anderson Valley wine that's coming out in the next couple of weeks. So those will both be a really good way for consumers to start to understand how Pinot Noir kind of differs across location. From there, if that would give you a good idea of maybe which single vineyard wines might be worth exploring to kind of get into the more details of each area. Well, I think we position ourselves very well. You mentioned they're always wanting to try new things. And I think that Terragena is very particular in the way that we make our wine and the quality that we produce. And so just as I am curious and I'm always exploring, and those are foundational principles, the blend of art and science through that curiosity. That's what the consumers want. They're curious. They're searching for that new and exciting idea or that new and exciting wine. And so, I just mentioned we're doing a Vermentino for the first time. We're always looking for new things. We've done Nebbiolo from Humboldt County. We make things that we find interesting or fascinating or unique, and we make them very well with the highest, using curiosity to drive that art and the science. And I think that's what we offer. And I think for the next generation, that's exactly what they're asking for. And I'm excited to tell the story. So I'd say maybe something that would have helped me had I known it it's important to pick the elements of the brand or the elements of the journey that are the most important. Those are your priorities. And then you can see what boxes you fit in, right? Because at some point, if it's true to yourself and there's a meaning to it and a purpose behind it, for me, it was exploring something I didn't completely understand and sharing that exploration. And for someone else, it could be, whatever their passion is that they pursue. But make sure that that's the guiding principle, and then let all the other factors fall out however they will, because it's a challenging marketplace, right? And so once you find that key point, everything else is flexible, and you have to be flexible in this business to work with other people, to make things work and to make the deals happen and to get the wine to the consumers that ultimately really want it. So yeah, find that point, that piece of purpose, and then let everything else, try to plan it the best that you can and be ready to adjust. Yeah, so my ideal partner is probably medium or small sized, because we have a personal relationship with everyone that we sell wine to, and I would, want to maintain that. They would have the capacity to deliver the wine, obviously, to the consumers and to promote it effectively. And I would feel like kind of a couple gaps. One is our appellation series can really help with the by the glass at upscale restaurants, or potentially at off-premise as retail promotional stacks, because it's a very more accessible price point and a higher end product. And then in those same accounts where you can use the appellation series as a by the glass, as you build those relationships, that gives you opportunity for the single vineyard wines to have premium offerings at those accounts, either in their cellars or in their bottle lists. So that we would create a situation where we could fill the volume niche for a distributor in the appellation series, where we can scale and produce really high quality wines as needed for those kinds of sort of volume accounts, but also produce really small production handmade wines that you can use for cellar lists and that could age for 5 or 10 plus years at a really nice restaurant that can afford to do that sort of treatment. So those would be the main niches, is the on-premise, kind of a vertically integrated in the sense that we can appeal to both the higher end of the menu and the mid to lower price points and drive volume there. Ooh, so I really like our Riesling from 2018. It's a white wine and it's a dry Riesling. We are also doing an education project with that coming up, where we also have a late harvest of that wine that we do a compare and contrast. But that wine I really love to drink. The late harvest Riesling, it has just such a beautiful character, and it's just so crisp, and I just find it really relaxing and pleasant. So. Reiterating that we love to blend art and science. We love to make premium wine and, stay curious.